everyone. Welcome to Crime in Court. This is the Delphi trial transcript. We are reading through the transcript of Indiana versus Richard Allen in the homicides of Libby German and Abby Williams. And today, on Friday, we read through the opening statements. Today, we're going to read through the testimony of Becky Patty. Becky Patty is the grandmother of Libby, and Libby was living at the Patty home with her father. And you'll find out more about that. But I just wanted to give you that little brief uh, background. Sorry, couldn't think of the word. So let's get started. Let's just dive right in. We're going to read through the direct and the cross of Becky Patty. So let's get started. All right. So Ms. Diener, who is with the state, is going to be doing the questioning. The witness is sworn in, and Ms. Diener asks. So we'll test it, and she'll let us know if that she cannot hear you. Okay. Okay. They must be testing the mic or something. All right. So I know you're used to talking to the person asking you the questions, Becky, but I'm going to ask you to look towards the jury. What? Why is she asking her to look towards the jury? To gain sympathy or something? That's really not how you're supposed to do it. Okay. Already it starts off with a bang. The witness is asked by the prosecutor to look at the jury. This is the grandmother of one of the decedents. This is very inappropriate, but okay, let's move on. So I know you're used to talking to people or talking to the people asking you the questions, Becky, but I'm going to ask you to look towards the jury so they can hear you rather than talking towards me in case that would cause some difficulty. Okay? All right. Let's tell everyone your name. My name is Becky Patty. And how do you spell your first name? She spells it. How do you spell your last name? She spells it. And what city or town do you live in? She says Delphi, Indiana. Do you live in town or out of town? No, we live in the country. We live about 7 miles from here. And have you always lived out of the country? For the last 32 years. Out in the country, sorry, not out of the country. Out in the country. She says for the last 32 years they've lived there. Okay, certainly. From the time frame of 2017 until now? Yes. Okay, and did you graduate from Delphi? Yes. I'm assuming Delphi High School? So this is your hometown. You know the area very well, don't you? I've Carroll County fever. Or not fever, Carroll County forever. She's been in Carroll County forever. Okay, great. And did you go to school after high school? I did some college. Okay. Did you do it locally or did you go away from the area? No, locally. And what did you do, or what do you do for a living, if anything? Or maybe you're a homemaker, which is perfectly fine. What kind of question is that? Okay. I do appraisals. And do you have an office? Do you work for someone else? I have my own business and my office is at home. Has it been that way the entire time? Yes. And so the office is within your home or adjacent to it. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. I took over part of the garage. We made an office out of the garage. Okay. So back in 2017, who was living with you at your home? At that time, in 2017, it was my husband and I, Kelsey, Libby, my son Derek, and my other son Cody. So her two sons, Derek and Cody, and then Kelsey and Libby are both the daughters of Derek. Okay, so it's a crowded household, probably. I'm assuming. All right. So Let's go through those. You said your husband, my husband. His name is Mike Patty. All right. And then you said Kelsey. Who's Kelsey? My granddaughter, Kelsey, at the time, German. Okay. And what's her last name now? Siebert. So she's married. Is that correct? Yes. You said Libby, Libby German? Yeah, and Libby German. Oh, I was like, why am I not scrolling? I forgot the transcript cuts off, so we got to go to the next transcript here. Sorry. Okay. Whoops, where's page one? All right. So Libby German. And Libby German is one of the victims in this case, correct? Correct. All right. And she's your granddaughter? Yes. But she was living with you at the time in 2017. Yes, she was living with me. Okay, you said Derek, is that right? Derek German, my son, Libby's dad. Okay, and how do you spell his name? She spells it. And so that's Libby German's father. Yes. And is it also Kelsey's father? Yes. Okay, so Libby and Kelsey are sisters. Mm-hmm, yes. And they are how many years apart? Three in age. Three. Okay, and then you said your other son, Cody. Cody. All right. What is Patty? Thank you. And how old is Cody in relationship to Kelsey or Libby? He's about 12 years older than Kelsey. Okay. And you said there's 3 years between Kelsey and Libby? Mm-hmm, yes. And so Kelsey and Libby are your grandchildren, but they were living with you. How long had they lived with you? About 10 years. How old was Libby when they started living with you? 3. And did she and her sister come to live with you at the same time? Yes. And did they live with you continuously? Yes. And so you and your husband, Mike, were married that entire time? Yes. So you and he were in the position of parents then? Correct. The appraisal works that you do at your home, does somebody work with you or for you at that home office? At that time, my daughter worked with me. She was there, and then I had an office girl that was there at the time. Okay, why don't you give us their names so if someone hears reference to those people, they'll understand how they're related to the home office. My daughter is Tara German, and the girl that was helping me is Jennifer Johns. So, did you operate this home office just like you would operate your business if it was in another location as far as having certain office hours, or how did that work? Yes, I tried to work from 8 till at least 5, so we had pretty consistent hours. And so they would show up for work every day just as your office was in town, correct? Yes. All right. Is that a Monday through Friday business? Unless we are busy. And then what happened? Then you work later. Okay, weekends too? Yes. And how long did you have this appraisal business prior to 2017? Prior to 2017, probably 15 years at that time. I've had it for 20, about 22 years or so now. Okay, so it was well established. Yes. But I think that's supposed to be by February of 2017. So you're raising Kelsey and Libby. Yes. And what grade was Libby in February of 2017? Eighth. Would Libby call your mom or grandma? Or would she call you mom or grandma? Oh, grandma. And tell us a little bit about her as a student. What was she involved in? Give us some sense of Libby. Libby was very active and very, very smart. From third grade on, she was in all accelerated classes. She was in the Math Bowl, Battle of the Books. She would have graduated a year early and her senior year would have been doing college classes. She was very intelligent and active in sports. She did, let's go in order. She did volleyball, then swimming, then softball, then soccer. She was in a sport year round. And if she wasn't in sports, she was asking to do something. She was either at our house, my house, or at her Aunt Tara's house. And that Aunt Tara is the one that you said worked with you in your home office. Yes. She was very accessible, Aunt Tara. Oh, yes. She had two boys that were the same age as the girls, and so we did everything together. Okay. And so, did your daughter Tara and her teenage boys also live in Delphi? Yes. So, they would have attended the same school? They attended the same school and they all rode the bus home to my house. Okay, perfect. And in addition to sports, and you said math bowl and another academic club, was she very active in having plans with her teenage friends? Yes. Okay. Yes, she would frequently spend the night with friends or friends were at her house. So is it common then for her to have her friends at your house where you got a chance to get to know them? Yes. So let's talk about Abby Williams then. Is that a friend of Libby's that you were very familiar with? Yes. She actually went on spring break with us. Prior to 2017, is that a yes? Yes. Okay. And would she spend the night? Yes. And were you familiar with her mother? What's her name? Amy? I think it's Amy Williams. Why am I blanking on it? I'm pretty sure it's Anna. Anna, not Amy. Ugh, sorry, it's Anna Williams. Um, are you familiar with her mother, Abby Williams? I guess they're saying Abby Williams' mother. Yes, who is Anna Williams or Anna Williams. Were you and her mother in communication with one another if the girls were making plans? Like, did you have her phone number? Yes. Let's do it that way. Yes, I had her phone number. Okay, and she would have yours as well. Yes. Especially since she went on spring break with you, you would need to communicate, correct? Yes. And so in that particular school year of eighth grade, we're more than halfway through it in February, correct? Correct. Were Abby and Libby participating in certain school activities together that you know of? They were both in band, so they had band together. They had played volleyball together. I don't know what classes they had together because a lot of Libby's were the other classes, so I'm not sure what all classes they had together. No, she was in advanced classes. Okay, is Delphi a very big school? No. And the middle school then would be the same, correct? Correct. And so, do you have any sense of how many kids there were in the class with Abby and Libby? What's the class size? Well, they went to different classes, so you may have different. Okay. I'm talking about their grade. Oh, shoot. Per grade. I don't know. Maybe 100, 150? Okay. Did you know a lot of Libby's other friends besides Abby? I knew several of them because, well, I was at all the sporting events, so you get to know a lot of the kids. Okay, and how old was Libby at this time in February of 2017? She had just turned 14 in December. Now, at the age of 14, you certainly can't drive yet, so was there a lot of transportation being done for her and her friends? Oh, yes, yes. And was it exclusively you, or would other members of the family participate in that? Oh, Kelsey, thank heavens she got her license. That took a big load off of us. Kelsey would take her a lot. Okay, and they're attending the same school, corporation, and so that was convenient, correct? Yes. Did you provide Kelsey with a car? Yes. Do you remember what she was primarily driving in February of 2017? Yes, it was a Bonneville. I don't remember the exact year. Do you know the color? It was a cream color. It was it was mine before hers. Okay. And so I'm going to take you to Monday, February 13th, okay? 2017. You know what day I'm talking about? Yes. All right. And would you agree that was a Monday? Yes, it was. So was that a typical work day for you? It was a typical work day for me, yes. Was it a typical school day for Libby and Kelsey? No. We had a snow makeup day, or we had snow makeup days. They were out Friday and Monday. So they had, uh, I guess, days that they had put into the schedule for snow days that didn't happen. So then they got freebie days off, and it just so happened to be a nice warm or seasonably warm day for the Midwest. And so they wanted to go out and enjoy the weather since it was February and they'd been, stuck inside all winter. Okay. Yeah. Okay. How did that change the activities of your Monday or the weekend just prior to it, if it did at all, with regard to Kelsey and Libby? Well, my work would be there. They were old enough. It's not like I had to run in the house. Okay. Was it different for them when they had a school day off with regard to, let's say, having friends over on what would traditionally be a school night, a Sunday? Normally, they didn't have friends over on school nights, and besides that, Libby had practice every night. So by the time she did school, practice, dinner, homework, there was no time at all. So weekends, there was usually somebody there or she was gone. Okay. So this particular weekend, where where there was no school on Monday, did she have a friend spend the night on Sunday night? Yes. Who was that? Abby Williams. And we're talking about Abby Williams, right? Correct. Okay, and I don't think I asked you, but I made the assumption, so I don't want to do that. Were Abby and Libby in the same grade? Yes. And you said they were in band together and they did some sports together? Yes. And so did you consider Abby to be a close friend of Libby's? Yes. And you said she spent the night more than once, Abby Williams did? Yes. And then she also went on spring break with you? Yes. So tell us about the morning of February 13th, 2017. What do you recall about what was happening in the house that morning since they didn't have school? Derek got up and made them breakfast, and Libby had come out and asked if we could uh, go do something, and I told them that I had to work, and but if they would help file some files for me, I would pay them, and then we would go shopping or something after I got off work. So they said, "Oh, okay." So they were out doing some filing and stuff for me. And then Libby came in and she was sitting on the floor in the office. And Kelsey came out and said that she had to work, but she was going to go to her boyfriend's house first. And Libby jumped up and said, "Hey, if you're going to go in town, would you take us to the trails?" And Kelsey had told her yes. And so she asked me if it was okay if they went to the trails. And I said, "Well, she can take you, but you've got to get a ride home because I've got to finish work and I don't have time to come pick you up. You're going to have to get a ride." So she went inside and then she came out and said that she had a ride home, that her dad was going to pick her up. And they got ready to leave and she came to the house or to the office door to tell me goodbye and I told her at the time to grab a jacket. It might be chilly. It was warm out, but it might get cold. And last thing she said to me is, "Grandma, it'll be okay." So when you told them that you couldn't take them somewhere, who is the them? Abby and Libby. Okay, so was Libby helping with filing? Just they were out. Yeah, they were out there. Okay, and they saw an opportunity to get to go somewhere. Is that right? Yes, yes. And that kind of happened right in front of you as Kelsey put her head in to say what that she was going. Yes. Okay. what was Libby doing on the floor? We had just gotten a new puppy a couple of weeks before, and he was out there with us in the office, and so she was sitting out there playing with him. And when she leaves the room, presumably to get ready to go to the trail, right? Mm-hmm, yes. What is she wearing? She had on a tie-dyed shirt and gray sweats. This came out, I thought, didn't, like originally the story was she was wearing shorts or something, but now we know that she was wearing gray sweatpants and a tie-dyed shirt. And at this point, were you paying any attention to what Libby was wearing? No. And that's not something that you could necessarily tell us. No. When Kelsey, or I'm sorry, when Libby asked to go to the trails, is it true that there are multiple trail areas in Delphi? Yes. And so when she asked that, do you have a sense of what trail she's referring to? Yes. Out Highbridge. They go out there a lot because there's a lot of woods and stuff, and Kelsey and Libby were both into photography, so she asked or she liked to go out there and take pictures. And so when she makes reference to the High Bridge Trail, you know what she's talking about? Yes. And you said she and Kelsey had gone repeatedly before. Yes. And that was something that you didn't have any concern about, apparently, correct? No. Did you feel like it was a safe area? Yes. Prior to now? Yes. When you were young, was it a developed trail like it is in 2017? I didn't do the trails when I was young, but well, we used to go with the kids. We used to ride bikes on the trails. Mike and I would take our bikes in town, and they weren't developed like they are now. They were just gravel paths. Okay. And so when you would go or when you would do a bike outing, would that include Kelsey and Libby? Oh yes, all the kids, grandkids. All the grandkids. Okay. And so if it wasn't a developed paved path at the time, what was it? It was just gravel. Okay. And did you actually do these bike ride trips on the Monon High Bridge Trail? No. At that time, the Blue Bridge wasn't there. They were still in the process of doing that. Okay. So if Kelsey and Libby visited the High Bridge Trail back in 2017, or maybe just even in the year prior, that something they needed to ask permission for? They would always ask. That's just what you do. You don't just go. Okay. And so the way that you parented them was that if they were going to go somewhere, they needed to ask permission. Correct. Don't most parents have that rule? Do you feel that Libby was respectful of that? Very, very. And if she asked you to go somewhere like a school event or the High Bridge and you weren't going with her, did you have confidence that she was going where she told you that she was going? Yes, most certainly. And if she had a lot of activities, how did you keep track of when she needed to be picked up from a particular activity or she had a phone? Stay in touch. She had a phone. Okay, you provided her a phone. We provided her a phone because she would always have to call us and say, practice is over, or this has changed, I'm there, or whatever. And so, in this family dynamic, if Libby was at an event and maybe you were working, were there other members of the family, you said Kelsey, anyone other than Kelsey that would take up the responsibility of providing transportation? Oh, yes, my husband, he did a lot of, there were many times when both of them were in sports that he would go in one direction, I would go the other. So, yes, he did a lot of running also. Okay, so Kelsey was also very active. Yes, similarly to Libby. Not as much as what Libby know. And you indicated that Derek German, which would be Libby's father, also lived in the home. Would he help with transportation? Yes. And it appears he was going to do that on February 13th, correct? Correct. Okay, and what about Cody? Not, Cody was gone a lot. Okay, he's an adult at that point. Yep. Did he have a full time job? He had a full time job, and yes. Okay, so with the exception of Cody, everybody pitched in if needed. Yes. So when Libby and Abby leave your home with Kelsey to go to the High Bridge Trail, did you expect that Libby would have her phone? Oh, yes. What was Libby's habit with regard to her phone? Did you ever have to worry about whether she'd leave it behind or not have it charged or, oh no. Were you usually able? She had that phone on her hip all the time. Okay. Was it a concern of yours to know exactly what time her father would be able to pick her up, her and Abby, from the trail since she had communicated? She made the arrangements with him. He told her that he'd pick her up when he was done taking some pictures for me. Okay. So he was doing some work for you at the time. Yes. And can you tell us a little bit about that? On this particular day, what was he doing for you? I had taken some pictures and I lost them, so I sent him back over to Frankfurt to take those pictures for me, or retake those photos for me for one of my reports. So he was in Frankfurt and he had left shortly before they did. So he told them that he would pick them up when he was done. Okay. And so you had a sense. Wait, that's just a weird sentence that just stuck to me, or stuck out at me. He was in Frankfurt and he had left shortly before they did. So he told them he would pick them up when he was done. That sentence doesn't make sense. Moving on. That's what she said. It almost seems like either he was in Frankfurt, well, he was in Frankfurt and left shortly before they did. How does she know when they did, when they left, when the girls left? Besides, they were leaving for the trails finally. He left shortly before, so then wouldn't, I guess he left before them that day, but it's just it was a weird way of saying that. I don't know. Am I confused or what? Anyways, moving on. Okay. And so you had a sense when they walked out the door that they would at least be gone for as long as it took him to do the errand for you and drive back. Correct. And had you been to Frankfurt previously for this particular appraisal? Mm-hmm, yes. Because you said you'd lost the pictures. Yes. So in your mind, you know he's going to Frankfurt, you know what house he's going to. How long did you think that would probably take? Well, he had to take 5 or 6 photos, just fronts of houses. It was comparable photos, so it shouldn't have taken him probably half an hour, 40 minutes to get there, half an hour to 40 minutes to take the photos, and another 40 minutes or so to come back. So probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. Okay. And do you recall the time of day that Kelsey was leaving with the girls to take them to the trail? Yes, it was around, I think it was around 1:30. Okay. Now, you said that you had been on the Monon High Bridge Trail to ride bikes, but what about the High Bridge itself? Not the High Bridge itself. Okay. And on February 13th, 2017, when you know that the girls, Abby and Libby, are going to the High Bridge Trail, what do you know about the High Bridge at this point? I just knew that all the kids in our family had always gone out there and taken pictures. I hadn't been down that far myself personally. And when you say down that far, this path or trail that is gravel, you're saying you didn't take that trail all the way to the High Bridge? No. And the pictures that you had seen from you said the kids, are you talking about the grandkids? And nieces. And nieces. Okay, so what sense of the bridge did you have from these particular photos? Well, the photos I always saw, they were like selfies, so they didn't show the whole thing. Okay. Could you tell they were a railroad trestle? I knew it was. I knew it was a trestle. That was just common knowledge, but I didn't realize how high it was. When you ultimately saw how high it was, were you surprised? Most certainly. Surprised that they would be on that bridge? It wouldn't surprise me out of Libby. Okay, tell us about that. Libby wanted to try everything. She was, as a matter of fact, at our last vacation, we had made reservations to go parasailing because that was what she wanted to do. She got her aunt Tara to do one of those where you jump and swing. She liked adventure and she sounds brave. She was brave. She was. She would try. She wanted to try anything once. Okay. Did you consider her to be outspoken? It would depend. She was polite, but if you were out of line, she didn't have a problem telling you. Was that the same for people of her same age versus adult or anyone? How, what was her interaction with adults? Very good. She was intelligent. Her thought process amazed me. She had more reasoning powers than I did, you know. There were times that she would say, "Grandma, I wasn't as calm as she was," and she looked at things differently. So you just described her as calm? Yes. In areas where that surprised you. It No, that was her nature. Her friends would come to her. One time, she said, "I think I need to be a psychiatrist because they all come to me with their problems." She could reason. She was logical, and she loved crime shows, and one in particular, I can't even remember the name of it, but it was a redhead lady that was a surgeon, and she was in a wreck, and her hands didn't work right, and so she helped the police solve crimes. And she said, "I'm going to do that someday. I'm going to help the police solve crimes, and I'm going to find cures." Because my mother died of COPD and she was there and helped her, so she knew she wanted to make a difference. And so she was referring to your her great grandmother. Yes. Okay. And so when she was she the type of teenage girl that would communicate with adults without being fearful? Oh yes. Yes. Did she have a sense of danger with regard to situations or people? She had a good intuition. Okay. So did you feel like she was equipped to stay aware of her surroundings as a teenage girl if you were letting her go somewhere without an adult? Yes, my husband is a first responder at work, so he used to come home, and I know the girls would roll their eyes because he was always very big on telling us all the time, be aware of your surroundings, know where your exits are, he was always going over stuff with the girls, so she would hear it over and over. So, yes. When Libby would be somewhere away from home, and let's say without Kelsey, because that's the situation we have, would she be a good communicator about when she would be done at a particular place or when she would meet you at a particular location to be picked up to come home? Yes, we usually knew what time we were to pick her up. She we would she would try to tell us or she would call us as soon as she knew so that we had a heads up. Okay, and if she went to a place with permission and then plans changed and she wanted to go somewhere else, like let's say they're at a game and a bunch of people are going to go out to eat afterwards, was she a good communicator about getting permission to do so? Oh, yes. And if you asked her to be at a particular place to meet you to be picked up, was she respectful of that? Yes. If she was running late, would she notify you? Yes. So on February 13th, 2017, she's gone to the trail with Abby, being dropped off by her sister. Yes. You know that's where she's going. At this point, you know that your son Derek is in Frankfurt taking pictures and he's going to pick her up. Yes. All right. So, what is the next communication that you have with any of those players that there's a problem? It was about 3:30 or so. Derek called me and he said, "I've been calling Libby and she's not answering her phone, and I'm here at the trailhead to pick her up and she's not here." And he said, "Can you try to get a hold of her?" So at that point in time, I started calling her and texting her. And my daughter, who was there in the office with me, she started calling and texting, and nobody was getting an answer from her. Had something like that ever happened before? No. Was there an ability to try and reach Abby? No. And why would that be? She didn't have a phone. So what do you recall doing next since you could not reach her? Since we couldn't reach her, I knew that that wasn't Libby, so I decided that maybe we needed to go there and look for her. So I called my husband at work and said, Derek's at the trails to pick Abby and Libby up, and they're not answering. So we're going to go to the trails and start walking the trails and looking. So Tara went ahead and I left to go start looking. And as I was walking out to get to my car, Cody pulled up coming from work and asked me what I was doing, and I told him. And so he got in the car with me. And I said, if they would have decided to walk home, there's two ways they could have come. So we drove both directions that they could have possibly walked home and they weren't there. And then we parked at the trailhead and started looking for the girls. And at that time, I tried calling AT&T to see if they could ping her phone. So that's interesting because um, usually, it needs to be. I think, don't they have to do it with like a court order or something? I don't know. She says, I was on the phone with them for some time and they wouldn't do it. Yeah, they wouldn't do it. So you provided Libby her phone? Yes. Is that correct? Yes. And so who all was on the phone plan? It was my husband, Kelsey, Libby, and me. And what about Derek? Oh, and Derek. Okay, so all five of you? Yes. So when you get to the trailhead, let's be a little bit more specific so they can relate it to other references to the trail. So that trailhead, what trailhead are you referring to? Does it have a reference with regard to the Mears entry? Okay. The Mears is what we always called the trailhead at that time, the Mears lot. And would you agree that it's called the Mears entrance because there's a big Mears farmhouse across the street and it has the name on it somewhere nearby that tells everyone it's the Mears? It has that big historic building, and then I think where the red gate is, they actually owned the land between the road and the trail. Okay. The trailhead, not talking about a developed parking lot, are we? Oh, no. I parked in the ditch. Okay. In this area that you're talking about how many cars would pull off the road and park there, would you say? In front of the gate, you could probably get a couple of cars. You could probably get a couple. I remember walking past two. Was one of them your son Derek's? Mr. Rosie says, could you repeat that? I couldn't hear you. Was one of them your son Derek's car, if you remember? I don't. There were two cars that just kind of stuck out at that point in time. Okay, so you get there. Do you actually go on the trail before you start calling AT&T? How did that happen? Yes, I was walking, and when I realized we're not finding her in what when I thought it is when we're not finding her is when I thought I'll call AT&T because I knew they had this thing where they could ping your phones or something. So I called AT&T and was trying to get them to. I told them that my granddaughter, we couldn't find her and asked if they could locate her phone, do that locator thing or whatever. And so I was on the phone with them for some time and they told me I could download it and I said I don't have her phone. So no, and then after I got done with them, I realized it was starting to get dark. It was after 5. And at that time, my husband, Mike, walked up to me and told me that we needed to call the police or do something because it's getting dark and Libby's afraid of the dark. Was she? Is this true? Anybody? Can you verify if Libby was afraid of the dark? She was brave, but now she's afraid of the dark. Okay. Okay. So, as you were walking and trying to communicate with AT&T for assistance, are you walking on this gravel path you described that you had biked ridden or a bike on before? I was walking the whole time. Okay. I was walking the whole time. Did you ever walk all the way down to the high bridge? I don't remember. It's okay if you don't. I was arguing with them. Okay. At that point, are you pretty much on your own walking and with the phone talking to AT&T and T, and the others are dispersed looking? My grandson was with me part of the time, but I don't even know where he went. And what grandson are we talking about? Peyton. And that's one of the children of Tara? And that's one of Tara's. So it's starting to get dark. No one has found them, correct? Yes. Yes. Okay. And you're communicating with your husband, Mike, and you guys make a decision to call law enforcement. Yes. Okay. At that point, had you communicated with Abby Williams' mom? I had tried calling her a few times in between and I could not reach her. So when I told my husband we needed to call the police, I told him that I was leaving and going to her house to see if I could find her. So did you drive your own vehicle when you left? Yes. And there will be discussion about Hoosier Harvest Store and video. When I say Hoosier Harvest Store, do you know what I'm talking about? Yes. And so when you came to the trailhead to look for Libby and Abby, would you have passed the camera coming from your house to the trailhead? Would you have passed the camera at Hoosier Harvest Store? No. And when you leave the Hoosier Harvest Store, you go to Abby Williams' mother's house. Would you pass the Hoosier Harvest Store? No. So your path to Abby's mother's home is in the direction back towards your home. Yes. Okay. And when you had made the effort to reach Abby's mom, tell us what her name is. Anna Williams. And when you had made efforts to contact Anna, were you contacting her cell phone? Yes. And were you able to leave a message on those previous calls, or do you even remember? I don't remember. That's fine. So you leave and go back the way that you came to go back to her home. At some point, do you find her? Do you reach her? Tell us what happens. When I got to their house, her grandfather answered the phone and said that Anna was at work. So I left there at that point in time and I was going to Anna's work, but I was most of the way there when she called me. And at that time, I don't know why I knew this, but I told her that we needed to go to the police station, so we met at the police station. You said that when you got to the house, her grandfather answered the phone. Did he answer the phone? Door. Or answer the door? Door, sorry, door. Well, when he said that Anna's at work, did you already know where she worked? Well, he told me, but I knew it was at the dock. And in going to the dock, is that a Delphi establishment? It's a restaurant. Okay, but it's in Delphi? Pittsburgh, which outside of Delphi. Okay. So when you leave her residence and go to the dock, does it take you back past the trailhead? From her house? Right. No. So she meets you at the police station? Yes. Had you had any communication with Anna Williams that particular day since Abby Williams had spent the night at your house the night before? No. Did you pretty much let the girls make the arrangements with respective parents? Yes. And rely on what? And rely on that? Yes. So that's the normal response was always make sure it's okay with them. So on this particular day, how long did you believe that Abby would be under your care, hanging out with Libby? Till that morning. And then how is Abby going to be delivered home? Her mom was going to pick her up. And was it important to know a time, or was it just enough to know that she'd come after work? That she was just going to come after work. We don't go by times. So now you're going to the police station to make a complaint that your granddaughter and Abby were missing? Correct. Is that right? Okay. And is that what you do when you get there? I think they already knew, but at that time, I think is when they were asking us for a description, asked for a photo and whatever they would need. Do you think that your husband or someone in your immediate family had already contacted the police so that they knew when you got there? I, yes, my husband called the police. Okay, was your husband at the police station when you got there, if you remember? Not that I'm aware of. Now, some of the normal things the police would ask you would probably be where did you last see them, correct? Yes. Okay, and that would have been at home, at home. All right, so at home, where did you believe them to be? Right? Where did you believe them to be? Right? Yes. Huh? And what did you tell them? At at the trails. They might have asked when they were dropped off, right? Yes. Okay, and what were they wearing? Yes. Okay, and you already testified that you had a memory of Libby wearing a tie-dyed shirt and gray sweatpants or gray sweats. Yes. So is that the information you shared? Yes. Is there anywhere else that you were able to tell them about a jacket or shoes or anything else? Oh, I knew she had on black Nikes, but as for a jacket, I truly thought she didn't take one. And you later became aware that she probably wasn't wearing gray sweats. Is that right? I did later become aware of that. And how did you become aware? The police told me. Well, did you become aware of something in your own home that, well, allowed you to conclude that she was not wearing the sweats? Well, I was confused. When I was straightening up her room, came across the gray sweats. I thought, does she have two of these? The girls were always getting clothes and stuff, so I thought, well, maybe she has two pairs of gray sweats, or she would wear mine. But at that point in time, I still didn't realize she had changed. Because you didn't see that part of her right when she left. No. Why are you so sure about the black Nikes? Because she wore them all the time. After you went to the police station, did you go back out to the trails that evening? We, I was at the police station until well after midnight. Mike, my husband, picked me up and we did go back out to the trails and then we drove, just in case, we drove around to other places. So did you drive to the police station and just leave your car there, or you said you went with Mike back out? I don't know what happened in my car. Hard to say, isn't it? I don't remember. You don't remember being up very late that night? Yes. And do you remember continuing to try to reach Libby's phone? We called. We kept calling and kept calling and kept calling. And did you at some point get your AT&T records for your whole family and share them with law enforcement? Yes, yes. I saw somewhere where somebody was talking about times. I think I was talking to Derek and he said, well, when they asked me, I just pulled out my phone. Uh, I look at the times. So I thought, oh, great idea. So I went online and printed out our phone records for the month. And that included all five of you? All of us. Were you part of the search party? Well, let's talk about that night then. So you at some point go home. Yes, the 13th. And you go back out the next morning. Early, yes. They were doing up an official search the next. So now this is Tuesday, the 14th of February. Yep. They were doing an official where everybody met at the firehouse and they put you in groups and had a leader and they said they were doing a grid search and they were doing a grid search. And what area did you look in on that day, if you remember? Oh, I do because we were right down the road from my house and they had us walking out across these fields and just in case. Okay. And so this area in the fields close to your house, was that away from the trail that they had actually been on? Oh, yes. Okay. So the trail did not include this area. No, of the fields. Not at all. Okay. So you were looking in an area where they might have ended up if they had tried to walk home? Yes. Okay, so between the trails and your home, you were assigned an area. Yes. Where were you when you learned that they had been found? We were walking back to the car because we had gone as far as what our grid was, and we were walking back, and a friend of ours came running up to us. My daughter Tara was in my group, and a friend came running up and said, "They found them, they found them." So we ran to our car and we ran to the car, and I went to the trailhead, Mears Trailhead, and I went running up. This was a fireman standing there, or there was a fireman standing there, and I went running up to him and asked him, "They found them. They found them. You need to take me. You need to take me to Libby." And he kept trying to tell me that no, they hadn't. They hadn't. He hadn't heard yet. And I remember turning around and my sister was sitting on a wagon and she just started crying. And what sister was this? I'm sorry? My youngest, Melissa, and she was sitting there crying. And I went running up there and I said, "Hey, they found them." And all she could say was, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I said, "No, they found them." She wouldn't tell me anything. I found out later she was part of the people that found them, and I remember about that. My husband came up and some of my family, and they were taking me back to his truck, which was parked in the Mears driveway, and he set me in the truck. I think he went back to talk to somebody, maybe to find out what was going on. And I remember sitting there and I couldn't understand why they wouldn't take me to her. And as I'm sitting there, the coroner's van came driving by, and that's when I realized that they weren't alive. And then a little while later, my husband came back to the truck and said that they were calling us all, the family, up to the firehouse, that they needed to talk to us. So your initial reaction then to someone saying we found them was that they found them alive and well. Yeah, that's what well, they wouldn't say anything more. That didn't even cross my mind when they told me. I just thought they found them. And you said your sister Melissa obviously was having a difficult reaction, correct? Or a different reaction. Yes. And what was Melissa's last name at the time? Lowry. I'd pass the witness, Judge. The court says, "Mr. Rosie, Mr. Baldwin." So now we are in the cross examination of Becky Patty. All right, and Mr. Andy Baldwin will be doing the questioning on cross here. And he asks, "Libby was, you said on direct examination, outspoken." Yep, yes. She would speak her mind? Yes. Whether it be to young kids and adults alike, or was she, yes, pretty equal opportunity there? Yes. Okay. She stood up for herself and others, especially others, especially others. And if needed, she'd get vocal. Would that be true? She would tell you what she thought. Did she have a good voice? How was her voice? She had a low voice. I'm sorry? She had a low voice. A low voice, like kind of like mine, but not as low as this probably. She just had a low voice. A lower voice. How was it strength wise? Some people are soft spoken like this and others are a little bit louder. She was just normal. Normal, okay. On the 13th, that's Monday, after you realized the girls were missing, you saw flashlights kind of somewhere looking for the girls. Is that right? Yes. Okay. And you thought, wow, there's a whole lot of people out here helping now. Is that right? Yes. Did you ever learn or were you ever able to get AT&T to start pinging? No. Okay. You don't know one way or the other? I don't know whatever happened with them. Fair enough. You said the police told you that Libby was not wearing the gray sweatpants. Is that correct? It was much later. So she wasn't wearing the gray sweatpants, but um, that's what she reported her in that day as missing in gray sweatpants. Um, she says it was probably years before I realized. Oh, okay. So, okay, can you give me an idea how much later? No, it was probably years before I realized that it wasn't the gray pants. Okay, was it before Mr. Allen was arrested? I couldn't even tell you that. That's fair. Did you just 2 days ago provide your DNA to police? Yes, one of the times. Oh, you've done it on other occasions? Yes. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. No other questions. The court asks if Miss Diener has any other, uh, has any redirect, and she does. Miss Diener asks, Becky, when you indicate that you saw flashlights of people looking the night that they went missing, that later that night, were you on the path that you talked about when you saw those flashlights? No, at that time we were driving. Oh, you were driving. We were. Okay. We were between the CPS and Harvest Store. It was in that area. So, in order to assist everyone in understanding between CPS and the highway, that would actually be away from the high bridge, would it not? Yes. Okay. And, Judge, I have an omitted question if I could have permission to ask. The court says you may. Do you know if Libby had ever been exposed to handguns? No, I mean my husband had some guns. He hunts. When you say your husband has guns, he hunts, I picture in my mind a long gun, a rifle, or shotgun. What do you mean by when you say that he has hunting guns? That's what he has, shotguns. And when I'm asking about handguns, I'm talking about something significantly smaller. Do you know what I'm referring to when I say a handgun? Yes, yes. Okay. So would Libby, during that time that she lived with you, to your knowledge, from age 3 to 14, had she had any experience or been around handguns? No. Do anyone in your household own a handgun that you know of? Yes. Okay. Was it something that Libby would have been around? No. Ms. Diener says, thank you. The court says, Mr. Baldwin. Mr. Baldwin says, no other questions. The court says, all right. Does anybody on the jury have any questions for Becky or Miss Patty? No response or indication from the jurors. So this is interesting that the jury gets to ask questions of each witness. So it's pretty interesting. We'll get that dynamic as we go along. Court says no. All right. Thank you, Miss Patty. You may step down. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and take our lunch recess. I apologize. It's a little late, but I think I told you this. We're kind of going to let the witnesses dictate. So we don't want to break in the middle of a witness. So I assume lunch is here for the jury. While you're outside of the courtroom, please keep your minds open. Please don't form any opinions or conclusions about anything. You may discuss the evidence. This is so bizarre. You may discuss the evidence that you've heard so far. This is unheard of. Usually, you're not to discuss anything about the case until deliberations. So, this is strange to me. Only do that if all 16 of you are present in the jury room at the same time, and then please don't deliberate. So, you may talk about it, but you can't deliberate. And you may take your notepads if you wish, which is yet more convoluted. You're taking your notes with you and you're allowing them to discuss the case and have their notes with them at the same time and play off of each other's notes and things, and it's bad in my opinion. The bailiff says all rise and the jury is out. The court says let's resume at 1:30, ladies and gentlemen. Jody, you can go off the record. And they do. And we will continue tomorrow with um, Kelsey is next. So Kelsey Siebert is our next witness. And as you know, that is Libby's sister. She drove Abby and Libby to the trails that day. So we will hear her testimony and see if there's any inconsistencies there. So that'll be interesting. Stay tuned. Please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, uh, share, do all the YouTubey things. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye now.